Hello, welcome to Senior Moments. I'm Dolly Simunovich. Alternative medicine has become mainstream. Everywhere you look, there's some form of healing going on. You can check out herbal remedies, do Tai Chi exercises, or get reflexology treatments. Today's program is about an alternative medicine called acupuncture. The World Health Organization has recognized the effectiveness of acupuncture in treating many of today's health problems, from addictions to pain management to stress reduction, and especially for many of the ills suffered by older adults. I hope you enjoy the following conversation. I'm here today in South San Francisco at Balanced Body Acupuncture. My guest today is Tracy Borza, acupuncturist and owner. Welcome to the show, Tracy.
Thank you, Dolly.
It's nice to have you here.
Nice to be here.
Oh, good. What is acupuncture?
Well, acupuncture is the placement of needles along specific acupoints on the surface of the body. Acupuncture is one branch of Chinese medicine, which is a complex, holistic medical system. It also includes other things like herbs and diet, but acupuncture is probably the most well-known. And acupuncture has been used for thousands of years to not only diagnose, treat, and prevent illness, but also to restore that individual back to health.
Well, how does it work?
Well, acupuncture works in the simple terms, it restores balance to the body. When a person is in health, the flow of qi, or the flow of nutrition, of blood, of all these vital substances take place in a network of pathways called meridians that run vertically on the body. And when the person is in good health, these pathways are open and flowing like rivers. But when there's an obstruction, then there's disharmony and pain or other symptoms arise from the obstruction.
So if I understand you correctly, acupuncture uses the flow of energy and keeps the flow of energy moving through the body.
Yes.
And it moves through meridians in the body, is that correct?
Yes.
And you use the needles to keep everything moving.
Well, the meridians are pathways that run vertically on the surface of the body, and they're actually connectors between the external environment and the internal environment. And the needle actually is just a way to adjust the flow of energy.
So what are the meridians? Are they the same as the blood vessels or the nervous system, or?
Well, yes and no. Yes, in that we can comprehend the vast network, right? We know that we have the circulatory system, the nervous system, but the meridians are that plus. They're a little bit more. And what they do, there's actually 12 meridians on the body, and they correlate with organ systems. So they run on the surface of the body, they dive deep into the body and connect with their partnered organ, and then come out to the surface of the body, in which we can access through the meridians or through the acupoints.
So what you're saying is, if I have problems with my liver, you might put a needle in my leg that'll affect the flow of energy through my
Absolutely
liver,
right.
and thereby healing it or making it or putting it back in balance. Is that what you're
Putting it back in balance, absolutely. So it's not uncommon to come in with a headache and the acupuncturist will needle your foot. Sometimes they will needle the area of discomfort, but it just depends on that practitioner and what is manifesting for you.
Talk to me a little bit more about what qi is.
Well, qi is a very dynamic vehicle in the body. We cannot exist without qi. Qi is energy plus. It's blood, it's nutrients, it's vital substances. It's a lot of it's a huge concept, but best understood in how it works in the body. It is accompanied by, it accompanies all movement in the body, and it is part of all harmonious transformations in the body. It warms the body, it protects the body, and it helps keep the organs and fluids in their proper places in the body. And so when there's a disruption, such as a prolapsed organ, something like that, we know that there's a problem in the qi flow. Something is not happening the way that it should be.
So when you get the flow going again, it automatically heals.
The human body wants to return to balance, always. It's innate in this, but sometimes it becomes too stressed or strained or injured to do it. It can no longer do it in the efficient way that it used to. So that's when an acupuncturist comes in to help adjust. We help support the body into going back to its self-healing.
So acupuncture would be a holistic medicine because it works with your whole body.
Indeed.
And so it might not just be your liver that's affected. It could be something that works with the liver. It could be a number of problems, and that with acupuncture you can work on everything at once. Is that what you're saying?
Well, we take into consideration all of you. So we know that when you're suffering with pain, it affects your outlook on life. It affects how you feel. It affects your moods. It affects all of you, your appetite. So when you're coming in, what we're doing is we're addressing your major complaint, but we're also understanding that it affects you on many different levels. So what we try to do is just rebalance you so that you feel yourself again. And that's what I love, is that I help people to restore, to reconnect with themselves.
How would you define wellness?
Well, to me, wellness is peace, stillness, being comfortable, not having any major aches or pains, having flexibility, and again, just having a love for life and being able to appreciate it. But when you're injured, it's a lot harder to see the sunnier side, right? And so that's my definition of wellness.
So your goal is to bring people back into that definition of wellness, the feeling good and
Absolutely.
everything working well. And
for some people, they haven't felt themselves in years. And so when they come off of my table, out of this office, they have a glow and a spark to their eyes, to their spirit. They look brighter. They feel better.
I've asked you what is wellness, or what is your idea of wellness. What is illness?
Illness is a dis-ease or disharmony in the body, right? And it can be a physical, it can be a mental, anything that disrupts the normal flow and you feel off. And sometimes we can't even really take that complaint to our doctor. I just feel out of balance. I've heard that several times. They say, I go to my doctor, they're going to laugh at me. I say, come to me. I understand what you're saying. I can help write you to make you feel like you're back in balance again.
Well, how about the people who go to their doctor and the doctor says, hey, I've done all the tests, you're fine?
Well, that's another thing, is I always encourage people to seek all of the diagnostics that are available, check in with their doctor, and if everything turns out negative, then to me this is a good sign. This is the best time, one of the best times I should say, for acupuncture to intervene, because you're still feeling off. You're not quite, can't really manifest a disease, which is good. We don't want to see a disease coming up on these diagnoses, on the diagnostic methods, because all disease starts in this sort of energetic imbalance, right? You just feel a little off. You can't quite put your finger on it. The doctor can't find anything, but they tell you nothing's wrong. That doesn't make you feel satisfied. It doesn't make you go home and think, well, I should be okay then. You're the one living in your body. You still feel that there's something off. You just can't place your finger on it. So that's when acupuncture is really, really ideal, because it just helps, as we talked about, the balance and the flow in the meridians. Just by simply adjusting that, sometimes that's all that person needs to alleviate or reduce the symptoms that they might have brought them in the first place.
And to keep it from progressing into a disease.
Exactly.
I think that's a good place to take a break. So when I get back, we'll talk about treatments for this. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
think what would surprise people is that we're not just about books.
There's a lot of entertainment to be had in the library.
I think it's great that the library has kept up with the new technology. You can come here and use computers if you don't have one at home.
I tell them about the children's section, and I tell them about the bilingual story time and how much fun their kids could have.
I'm not working right now. I spend time on the computer, like I say, it's a free internet, looking for work. And my son likes to come to story time.
Anyone can come into the public library.
And it's just automatic. You come down here when I want to get a new book or read or get a new movie.
I think we will save money, so I don't have to go to buy books.
I don't like buying books.
The people working here are very friendly.
I like having the wireless internet connection.
I just like it. I've been living in San Bruno for quite some time, so it's like a part of me.
It's a place for lifelong learning.
Welcome back. I'm Dolly Simunovich here with Tracy Borsa, acupuncturist. And we were just discussing what acupuncture was, but now we're getting into treatments. So, Tracy, will you tell us what kind of treatments you use to help people's qi flow?
Well, we use needles. Obviously, I have an example of a needle. In California, they need to be sterile and they need to be disposable.
Mm-hmm.
That's key. So you should always see your acupuncturist opening up the needles, and when we take them out, they're very, very thin, almost no thinner than your hair. Not like a hypodermic needle, which is beveled and delivering something.
Mm-hmm.
So needles are the primary therapy that I use. I'll also incorporate cupping, which is a type of massage, moxibustion, which is a burning of an herb, and again, all to move and warm the body. Sometimes I'll use herbal therapy. I use Chinese herbs as well as Western herbs, and sometimes a combination of the two. I'll use sometimes Qigong, which is kind of a breathing exercise, and a little bit of Tai Chi, depending again on that person. And Tai Chi, of course, is movement therapy.
Well, let's talk a minute about the needles. Now, the needles you said are thin. And that you have different size needles too that you use.
Of course, there's many different size needles. Each company is specific on the gauge, and the gauge is really the diameter, how thick the needle is. And then of course we have the length. Normally we're anywhere from a ½ an inch to up to 3 inches. We usually don't use the large needles unless we really need to get into a large area, a huge muscle, or that person's body structure is such that we need to have a little bit bigger needle.
So how far does needle, yes?
It depends on the area of the body, right? If I'm needling along the side of the hand or on the foot, there's not a lot of flesh here, so we don't need to go that deep. If I'm going into the shoulders and really trying to relax that muscle, then I'll go a little bit deeper, maybe about a ½ an inch or so. If I'm working sciatica in the glutes, then I'll tend to go a little bit deeper in there, and that also depends on your body type.
Okay. And how about the cupping? How does that work?
Well, cupping, I use the traditional fire method, and what it is a glass cup that we create a vacuum in there, and then we put it onto the skin. And what it does is it sucks up the skin, and you can either do stationary cups, or I like to do something called sliding cups, which I oil the area, and then I slide the cups along the surface of the body. What the cupping does is it's pulling up, it's almost like a deep tissue massage, pulling up the skin, the fascia, and moving the qi, moving the blood, and relaxing the muscle at the same time. Cupping is only done on broad areas of the body, like the back, buttocks, possibly even the thigh, depending, and sometimes the abdominal region, but again, really specific to that person and what they need.
Does any of this stuff hurt?
Well, pain is,
I mean, you know, there are a lot of people afraid of needles.
That's right.
What can they expect as far as that?
That's a good point, needle phobic. If someone is needle phobic, can they still receive acupuncture? Absolutely, without a doubt. You can either use needles or use finger pressure or other sort of tools to stimulate the acupoints. Sometimes if somebody comes to me and says, I'm needle phobic, I appreciate that information and I let them know that I've worked with many needle phobic people. And so I take extra care to make sure that that first session is comfortable for them. Pain is something that everybody has different pain thresholds.
Yes.
When you needle an acupoint, and if I may, just on your hand here, this is a very common one. Sometimes we needle right here. Sometimes you don't feel anything. You feel like a bug bite. Something just bit you, and that's the insertion of the needle itself. Sometimes you get a needling sensation. This is described in different ways according to the person receiving. Sometimes it's described as a big sensation, powerful, energy running, achy, heavy, various sorts of descriptions. They'll almost start to describe the pathway or the meridian as it's opening.
Well, I come from a sports background. There's good pain and there's bad pain, isn't there?
That's right.
So, I mean, sometimes feeling that good pain is telling you that it's working.
Well, a lot of times
it's not a dreadful pain.
That's right. A lot of times people tell me it's a momentary discomfort for days of benefit or longer, depending, again, on the condition.
Let's say I came here for the first time now, and I just don't know what to expect as far as a treatment is concerned. What happens?
When somebody contacts me, I offer a complimentary consultation, and at that time they come in, fill out some paperwork. We'll go in and we'll sit and I'll find out a little bit more about you. And then at that point I can decide, is acupuncture going to be something that would benefit you or not? If it is, then we'll go on to further diagnostic methods, develop get some information, and then develop a treatment plan specific for you.
Well, how do you diagnose?
Well, I use traditional looking. So I'll look at you. If you're telling me I got a pain here, I'll look at the area to see if there's anything out of the ordinary. I'm listening to you. I'm listening to how you're telling the story, the tone of your voice, how you're looking at me, the spark in your eye. I'm also checking pulses in Chinese medicine. We're not checking for pulse rate and blood pressure, although that is part of what we do. There's 3 positions on each wrist. And what we're doing is we're looking at the quality of the pulse itself. And the positions on the wrist correlate with various organ systems. So what I'm going for is kind of a broad range of where is the greatest imbalance. Which system is the most stressed and strained, which is the weakest, and then from that addressing those 2 and trying to make the correction.
Well, how about side effects?
It's a relatively safe medicine. What's the worst that would happen? Maybe a little bruising around the insertion site. Sometimes people feel achy. Sometimes people feel tired. The worst case scenario would be organ puncture, but that's usually happening when somebody is not practicing in the proper way or is licensed.
Okay, so the chances of organ puncture with you is pretty slim.
Very rare. That's the wonderful thing, is that California is actually very progressive in licensing and keeping acupuncturists to a very high standard. We're the only profession that is actually tested and licensed in herbology. So you can feel very confident that your acupuncturist knows what they're doing when they're prescribing you things. But it's important, as always, to let that person know as much about you as possible, what medicines you're on, what foods you're eating, etc.
How does this work with Western medicine?
Well,
do you work with it or against it, or how does it differ, the whole thing?
My idea is I would love to have the 2 marriage. I think that they're wonderfully complementary to each other. I think the Western medical doctors are terribly overburdened and they don't have enough time to spend with their patients. And a lot of times their hands are tied because they've tried all their means and the person still isn't getting better. So I think this is a nice way for acupuncturists and actually any of the holistic professions to sort of integrate into the allopathic field. Because what happens is that we can then take the burden off. So we can work with the medical doctors and say this person is getting better, this person isn't. They can focus then on more serious cases in which the pharmaceuticals are much needed. That's my idea, and it's slow in coming. I know certain hospitals are starting to bring it in. Hospices are even starting to bring it in.
Are they?
Absolutely. It's wonderful to help someone sort of ease the process as their life is ending, to feel comfortable. They've had some wonderful results with that. As far as working with doctors, I encourage, again, people to communicate with their doctors. More and more doctors now are becoming aware and are looking at these other therapies, whether it's herbs or acupuncture, but sometimes people still are bashful to say to their doctor, and sometimes it's how that doctor perceives the medicine itself. But if they feel comfortable, we're all working together to get you to feel well. So we all should be on the same page, and we should all know what each one is doing.
How does it differ from Western medicine?
Well, it differs in that traditional Chinese medicine, which acupuncture is part of, really our goal is to always bring you back to center, back to health. We always see symptoms as a disharmony in the body, and we want to correct that and bring you back into health. So we're looking at health. That's our goal, not elimination of the disease itself. We are focused on correcting or slowing down the process. Whereas the allopathic medicine tends to focus more on the disease itself and just eradicating that at whatever cost. Sometimes it's referred to as the shotgun method. You have this complaint and they're throwing everything they can at you and hope that it's going to work. But sometimes it's just not that necessary to do that. So sometimes a gentler approach is nicer, but again, always working with the two medicines. One medicine is not better than the other. They are very well matched, and again, very complementary to one another.
What is that term you used, allopathic?
That's right. It's just, I tend to use that term a little bit more than Western medicine. It's actually the proper reference to that medical system versus Western medicine, Eastern medicine. I prefer to use allopathic medicine and traditional Chinese medicine.
Oh, I see. Now, our program is about seniors. It's called Senior Moments, as you know. So our interest is in seniors and aging. Yes. Now, obviously, there's differences in seniors as opposed to 20-year-olds. And how does that apply in your medicine?
What happens is that our bodies, as we age, this is a natural process. We don't expect to keep the same high energy. We expect, again, our life is coming to an end. So we slow down a little bit. Our bodily processes aren't as optimal as they used to be in our 20s. So, for instance, if a 20-year-old sprains their ankle, they'll tend to be able to recuperate from that fairly quickly, whereas an older person, and again, depending on the age, they'll have a lot harder time recuperating from that. So I see a lot of seniors in my practice, and I always encourage them to come, because one of the things I hear a lot is that they're not feeling well. They know they're aging, but they don't feel well. And I want to help correct that, because we seem to have this idea that when we get to a certain age, it's our lot in life to be suffering. You can't age without pain. And this is, I think, a misconception. We can. We just need to be smart about it. We need to educate ourselves and be proactive in our own health care. And if we can reduce the amount of medication someone is on, that is a wonderful, wonderful thing to be able to accomplish.
So what you're saying then is aging, you can age gracefully with the help of acupuncture.
Absolutely.
Because it keeps the energy flowing, and even though it doesn't flow quite as fast as it did when you were 20, at least it's flowing.
It's flowing, absolutely. And it's meant to just support the aging process as well as slow it down. We don't need to win this race. We can go a little bit slower. And again, when you reconnect with yourself and feel how good you feel after an acupuncture treatment, it really gets you motivated and gets your spark for living back.
Doesn't your body pretty much heal itself?
Well, yes, the body does have that innate ability. That's why we do have these self-regulating systems. But sometimes they get overburdened, right? Just like when you get overburdened at work, you can normally get your projects done, but if you're getting too much at one time, you're only one person and you start to back up. And the same with the body. Or maybe there's an external injury, maybe there's some internal disharmony that's preventing your body from being able to do it itself. So that's when you seek out support from an acupuncturist or other person to help support and stimulate your body to reactivate those self-regulating systems.
So it helps you heal yourself.
It helps your body get stronger, yes.
All right, that sounds good. Where can we get more information about acupuncture?
Well, you can go to the website of the World Health Organization, and they have a wonderful information website about what to expect, a little bit more detail historically about acupuncture. That's a really good site for someone who doesn't know too much about it, a good starting point. Also, if you don't have an acupuncturist, ask around. The best way to find an acupuncturist is by referral, but sometimes we don't always have access to that. So the next in California is to go to the Acupuncture Board website. Punch in where you live, and then they'll be able to give you a list of several different acupuncturists where they'll be licensed. You'll be sure of that. You can also check to see how long they've been practicing and if there have been any marks against their license. So that's a really good. Again, it's meant for the consumer. Utilize it.
Tracy, thank you so much for joining us today. I really enjoyed your information.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for joining us today. See you next time on Senior Moments.